Hi everybody, Mr. Owens here. I'm going to be going over these two-part and multi-part equations. So this is stuff that seems a lot trickier, but I promise you, you have all the skills that you need for this. It's just a matter of putting together everything you've learned in the last couple months in math. So let's get started. So on this one, we've been used to translating and then using do and undo to solve this. But before we can do that, we need to expand this expression. We can't have the parentheses. So we ask ourselves, okay, what do we do when we have a number on the outside of the parentheses? And that answer is we're going to use the distributive property. Okay, so you need to do this first before you can actually solve it. And there's two ways to do this. So I'll show you using the distributive property. So we're going to distribute that. Remember, you get a 3 and you get a 3. If you remember this from our last unit from expressions, so we'll have 3 times -4 plus 3 times 2x. Remember, the number on the outside is multiplied by each term on the inside. All right, so then we're left with -12, right, plus 6x, right, equals 18. And now we can start translating and use do and undo. Remember, your goal is to eventually not need to use the do and undo and the translate, but I don't know if you're ready for that yet. Only you know that. So I'm going to translate this, right? And we always start with x. So we say start with x every single time. And I'll use my highlighter here just to make it a little more clear what's going where. So we start with x, and then remember the coefficient next to the variable, the number next to the letter means multiply, so we're going to multiply by 6. Okay, get a color for that. Okay, and then we're going to subtract 12, or if you want to say add -12, that's fine, but you deal with this -12. Remember, negative signs and subtraction signs are now the same thing. So I'm going to write subtract 12. And then finally, we're going to have equals 18, okay? Okay, so if you need help with the translating part, please come to my office hours tomorrow, Tuesday at 1:30, okay? All right, so now we can use the do and undo. So here's the do part, here's the undo part. And after we do and undo, I'm going to show you how to write this in algebra, okay? So we start with x, then we multiply by 6 times 6, then we subtract 12, and then it equals 18, okay? Now the undo, remember, we go backwards and opposite, right? Backwards and opposite. So the opposite of -12 is +12. Opposite times 6 is divide by 6. And then we're at equals x, okay? So I'm going to rewrite our equation here. -12 plus 6x equals 18, all right? So our first step is going to be to add 12 on both sides of the equal sign. I like to draw that line down the center of the equal sign so I don't forget which side is which. Remember, what you do on one side, you must do on the other side. -12 plus 12 is 0, so that cancels out. We get 6x equals 30, right? Our second step now, so we did use some colors to make this. So we did our first step, right, of plus 12. This is our first step. Now our second step is going to be dividing by 6. See a good color for this. So we're going to divide by 6, right? So that means we're going to divide both sides by 6, and I write it as a fraction because a fraction means division, right? 6 divided by 6 is 1, so that cancels out, right? Because 1x is the same as x, and 30 divided by 6 is 5, so x equals 5. That is our answer, okay? So that is one way to do it. So it's the same way that you've already learned, but just with the distributive property first, okay? Now, there's some where you're going to need to combine like terms and use the distributive property. So let's try this one. And I want to remind you, if you want to pause this video and try to do this on your own first, you can then play the video to check your answer. I highly recommend that. Okay, So first we're going to distribute this 4. So we have 4, oops, that's not 4, 4 times 6x plus 4 times negative 3. Remember, the minus sign stays with this term. This is minus negative 3, okay? And then we have minus 15x equals 6, okay? So now we have 24x minus 12 minus 15x equals 6, okay? And then we just have to combine like terms. So remember, those are terms with the same variable or with no variable. So here we have these two. I'm going to write them next to each other just so I can see them clearly. And that is 9x minus 12 equals 6. Now we can use the do and undo. If you don't need the do and undo to know what goes first, you can just get started. But I think a lot of us do need that, right? So we're going to, so for this, right, you're going to start with x, right? Start with x. So let me, instead of writing out the whole translation, I'm just going to put it right into the do and undo. So I'm going to start with x, right? Then I'm going to multiply by 9 times 9. Then we're going to subtract 12. And then finally, it's going to equal 6, okay? Again, if you do have questions about this, please, please, please come to my office hours or send me some emails, okay? This is confusing stuff. So to undo this, right, we're going to do the opposite. So plus 12 is our first step. And then divide by 9 is going to be our second step. And finally, it's going to equal x. So 9x minus 12 equals 6. Draw my line down the equal sign. Our first step, right, is going to be the minus 12, or the plus 12, sorry, plus 12. So I'm going to do plus 12 on both sides, right? Negative 12 plus 12 is 0, so that cancels out. So we're left with 9x equals 18. And our second step is divide by 9. Oops, wrong thing. Sorry. Divide by 9. It's our second step. So we're going to divide by 9 on both sides. Remember, what you do on one side, you have to do on the other side. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so that cancels out. So you're left with x equals 18 divided by 9 is 2. So that's our answer. X equals 2. So again, you have all the skills you need for this. But let's do another strategy. So Edgenuity is teaching you a reciprocal strategy. And I don't know if you are ready for this yet, but if you are feeling ready for this, you can look at this. Instead of distributing, you can say, okay, right, remember when we're writing in algebra, our goal is to get x by itself. So I want to get rid of the parentheses, so I'm going to divide, or sorry, I should say this means this is 2 times x plus 3, right? This is 2 times x plus 3. And how do we get rid of multiplying by 2? How do we undo multiplying by 2? We divide by 2, right? So we're going to divide both sides by 2. This is 1, so that means it cancels out to just be x plus 3 equals 10, right? And then you want to get rid of plus 3, so you undo plus 3, you subtract 3. 3 minus 3 is 0, that cancels out. You're left with x equals 7. So I don't know if you're ready for this yet. If you're not, that's totally fine. Do it the longer way where you distribute and then you use do and undo, okay? But you do want to get to the point where you can write in algebra and you can do the fastest way possible. Okay, now I just want to go over one challenge because a student brought up this problem from Edgenuity and it looks a lot worse than it is. Edgenuity is using a lot of they're using a lot of fractions and decimals, so be careful with this, all right? So first we're going to distribute, right? Again, I recommend pausing this video, trying the problem, and then playing the video to check your answer, okay? That would be a good thing to do. So here we're going to 2/3 times 6x plus 2/3 times 12. Now this problem is using a lot of pretty much all the math you've learned in your life until now. So we're going to try this one. So remember, we can write 6x as a fraction by writing it over 1. So this is like, you can write any number as a fraction by writing it over 1. And same thing with 12, right? You can do 2/3 times 12 over 1. So when you multiply fractions, if you remember, you go straight across. So you get 12x over 3. And then on this one, you get 24 over 3. Now, remember, a fraction means division, so 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this is 4x plus 24 divided by 3 is 8. So this is 4x plus 8 equals negative 24. Now we have a problem that we can solve, right? Oops, sorry about that. Now we have a problem that makes sense, right? Okay, so from here we can use do and undo, right? So we start with x, we always start with x, then we multiply by 4, then we add 8, and then finally it equals negative 24. When we undo that, we have minus 8 is the first step, divide by 4 is the second step, and then we'll get to equals x. So when we have this problem, when we're writing in algebra, the first step is going to be subtracting 8 from both sides. So positive 8 and negative 8 are 0. Then we're left with 4x. Negative 24 minus 8, remember your negative numbers. This is negative 32, not negative 16, okay? Our second step is divide by 4 on both sides. 4 divided by 4 is 1, so those cancel out. And then negative 32 divided by 4 is negative 8. And that's our answer, okay? So remember, try to make sure you don't get scared by the problems. They look scarier than they are, but you have all the skills you need. Please email me or come to my office hours if you need any help, even if you're not in my classroom. All right, good luck, everybody.